Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. Alligator Alcatraz, Lia Thomas being stripped of her medals, and the big beautiful bill. All on Nat and the Guy today.
His medals. Yes, and thank you to everybody who is joining us from my show in Spanish. We can translate any comments if we need to.
Yeah, and thanks for everybody that did tune into my show today. It kind of fell apart in the end. I tried to put the articles at the article segments at the end. It didn't work, so I'll go back to my normal routine. We're going to focus more on the English channel in about 2 weeks for the edited videos. I think we need higher quality there, but
yes.
Okay, let's go right into today's stories.
So right off the top, breaking President Trump's big beautiful bill passes the Senate 51-50 after VP Vice President J.D. Vance breaks the tie.
So now it has to go to the House, and there's a lot of pushback on this through Marjorie Taylor Greene and a bunch of others. So I'm not sure if it's actually going to pass. If Trump can get this passed, he's not going to have to make any more negotiations or deal with Congress again until the midterms. So he would be able to focus on all the other aspects. I don't necessarily like the bill, but I can't see it's a necessary evil. Trump is doing a ton of things, and he is delivering on a ton of promises. So he doesn't want to really deal with Congress if he's still trying to clean up all the mess of Biden and things like that.
What do you think are like the main aspects of why people are so like some Republicans and MAGA people are so against it?
Yeah, I'm against it as well. I don't like this. I don't like the spending, especially when you sent Doge in there to kind of clean up and save costs and get rid of a lot of the rot. And now you're just spending more money, which is going to cause more inflation. I think there does need to be cutbacks, but Trump is doing a lot, and I don't want to throw him off the tracks by having him constantly having to deal with Congress. So just get this big, beautiful bill passed and then keep doing what he's doing, because he is doing a lot of things. I do realize a lot of people don't like this bill. I necessarily don't like it either, but he is doing a ton of things that other presidents haven't done in the past.
So from the AP, Senate passes Trump's big tax and spending cuts bill as Vance breaks 50-50 tie, and Senate Republicans hauled President Donald Trump's big tax breaks and spending cuts bill to passage Tuesday by the... It's funny how they don't want to mention the name.
Yeah, and this is coming to a head with Elon Musk and Trump. Trump kind of put Musk in his place, and now Musk is acting up again. He's saying he will make another political party if this bill passes. He's saying he's going to try to midterms all the Republicans that vote for this bill. He'll start another political party that's all about cutting costs, things like this. He's also saying he'll fund Thomas Massie. So Trump is extremely upset with Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is really one of the intellectual base of the MAGA party. So what Trump is potentially going to lose if this rift does come to pass with Thomas Massie and Elon Musk and some of these other Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene is he's going to lose the intellectual base of the MAGA supporters. So he'll kind of be left with the ideologues.
But does Elon even have time to make a new political party? And because he likes to say a lot of things and sometimes doesn't pull through.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's but that's what I'm kind of saying is emerging, and we'll have to watch. I mean, this could be the end of Elon Musk or the beginning of a new party. The Libertarians are really talking. A lot of Republicans that want to cut spending. There's a ton of disenfranchised liberals that didn't go to the Republican Party because they had TDS, but they would unite under Musk maybe if he was all about cutting spending.
The outcome capped an unusually tense weekend of work at the Capitol, with the president's signature legislative priority teetering on the edge of approval or collapse. In the end, the tally was 50-50, with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote. 3 Republican senators, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Susan Collins of Maine, and Rand Paul of Kentucky, of course, he keeps talking against it, joined all Democrats in voting against it. In the end, we got the job done, Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota said afterwards.
Yeah, and what we're seeing right now is these tariffs are actually working. They brought in $20 billion so far. They're starting to get prosecutions off the back of Doge. He's going after illegal immigration. I mean, he is doing a ton of things. He's renegotiating these tariffs with these countries. even though he did kind of get drawn into this Iran thing, which I didn't like, he was able to minimize it to 12 days. So Trump is doing a ton. He's been in office only a little bit over 100 days. I mean, if he doesn't get this passed, he's going to have a lot of internal conflicts within the Republican Party. So just get this thing passed and focus on the things that he's doing to get these things secured. So, okay, let's go in. Do you have anything else about this, or?
Well, I was just going to read what happens next. But,
okay. Well, it goes to the House.
Yeah.
And a lot of Republicans are kind of against this. So there's talk, will it pass the House or not?
So the deadline is July 4th. Friday, the House GOP leaders have scheduled a Wednesday vote and about to put it on his desk before then.
Yeah, it's suspect if it will actually make it by July 4th, because Trump wants to sign this on July 4th and present this to the public. That's a big day in the United States. When it was going through the Senate, a lot of people demanded that every page was read, trying to delay this. They want to get it delayed. The Democrats do at least one day after July 4th. So they're going to ask for a full reading again in the House, I'm going to guess. And anything they can do to get up and object and kind of delay this one more day, they will, because Democrats don't want this for July 4th.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go into...
Speaking of the bill, from CDC Gaming, gambling taxes could exceed your net winnings under the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, and a lot of things got stripped out of this bill, put into this bill. He just wants to get it passed so he doesn't have to deal with Congress anymore. This was one thing they slipped in there. So Las Vegas and all these big casino players are going to be extremely upset about this, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens.
You want me to go into it?
Yeah, go into it a little bit. Now, Tim Pool is a gambler, and he was upset about this. He was talking about this on the show. I thought I'd put it in. He's completely against this part of the bill. I could care less either which way if it's put in there or not.
What do you think about gambling?
It is what it is. Sports gambling is huge. So, and I think sports it brings a lot of attention, not just for entertainment, but globally. And a lot of the stuff is based in the U.S. because it has the backing of gambling behind it. So
bettors could be forced to pay more in taxes than they make in net winnings under the new sweeping federal bill passed by the Senate on Tuesday. The 940-page Senate version of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the legislation backed by President Donald Trump, includes a number of major tax and spending changes, includes several differences from the version that was passed by the House in May. Among them is a new provision to limit deductions for wagering losses to 90% of annual winnings. Previously, gamblers were allowed to deduct wagering losses as long as they didn't exceed winnings for a given tax year.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because a lot of casual gamblers and things like that, this isn't going to really affect. This is going to really attack the big whales and hit the casinos themselves with their big players maybe. But overall, 90% of the players aren't going to be affected. It is that 10%. So.
And it is weird that Vegas is one of Trump's kind of homes.
Oh, yeah. And he's been involved in hotels and casinos a lot. So I was surprised this was actually put in there.
Yeah. I've never gambled, so I wouldn't know what it's like.
Once in a while I'd gamble on the UFC, but very rarely actually. So, but the bar I used to work at and be a bouncer at, all the staff and the owner just loved. They would sit there every Sunday, game after game on like 5 different TVs. They would have them all betted, mapped out. So yeah, people do have a lot of fun with gambling, especially sports gambling. It brings a lot more eyes, attention, and it puts a lot more meaning into the game, I think.
But it can be dangerous as well.
It definitely can be addictive, but
yes.
A lot of things can be addictive, and it's for adults to kind of make their own decisions, I think.
Yes, except when Disney wants to put it into their streaming service as well.
Yeah, that's something I am against,
ESPN.
And I will say that. So Disney's future model is based around trying to get gambling into the ESPN app and have a pipeline for kids to go from Disney Plus right into ESPN, right into gambling, and I'm kind of against that.
Yes.
Luckily, the Trump administration and ESPN are kind of butting heads, so they've had some hurdles to get through, which they haven't been able to yet. Okay,
next.
We can go into whatever you got for me.
So Trump brushes off past rivalry with DeSantis at opening of Florida's Alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah, and I seen Benny Johnson out there today, along with Caroline Leavitt, who's the White House press secretary, and they were touring this thing. It's not Unbelievably amazing, like they're trying to make it out to be. It's literally in the middle of a swamp, a bunch of gates. It's a holding facility. I wouldn't call it a totally secure prison because, yeah.
Are there alligators?
Oh, yeah, there's alligators in the swamps around there, but I don't know how much that's...
But not like specifically put there for...
No, but I don't really know how much that's going to deter people. I think it's more about it brings headlines like this, and they had merchandise for this thing. So it's kind of the same thing Trump did with immigration. He's only deported 137,000 immigrants, which is the least of any president in modern history. That being said, he's had over 1 million illegal immigrants self-deport with his program of you can go to the airport, ask for a ticket anywhere in the world. It doesn't necessarily have to be your home country. It could be Canada or Europe who accepts refugees, and they'll send you there along with $1,000 to get started. So a lot of people have taken him up on that offer, and yeah. And I think it's the same thing like with this. He's just letting people know there's a new sheriff in town. America's not necessarily going to welcome illegal immigrants anymore. They will welcome legal immigrants, and that's what they want. They're trying to work out their immigration system so they can effectively probably let it in more legal immigrants, I'm guessing.
Do you want me to read into it?
Yeah, you can read a little bit here.
Just months after President Donald Trump's administration quietly moved to undercut a hardline immigration push by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the two Republican former rivals appeared side by side on Tuesday for the opening of a new migrant detention center in the Everglades.
Yeah, and Ron DeSantis needs this because he went head to head with Trump, and Trump just...
Decimated him?
Yeah, decimated him, and his political career almost looked like it was over. This is an extremely good rub for Ron DeSantis to be seen next to the president, doing something with him, in coordination with him. I just don't think Trump really likes him anymore, but I don't know.
DeSantis.
Okay, let's keep going.
And the one thing I always remember about Ron DeSantis is his whole failed trying to come out and announce his candidacy with Elon Musk on X, and how embarrassing that was. That will always forever stick in my mind, because we did do a long time ago a bunch of videos talking about potential VP candidates or candidates in general. And I do remember when he came out with that announcement, I think that was the start of the end, and thinking of him to just stay in Florida and keep doing Florida good.
Yeah.
Because what he did with Disney as well was very interesting.
Yeah, he's a great governor of the state. I just don't necessarily know if I like him as a president, especially just seeing him in his campaign. Things kind of did fall apart there. There's so many good candidates to take Trump's place right now. J.D. Vance, I absolutely love the guy. He's a real populist. He backs Trump on certain issues he maybe doesn't agree with, but he's not president, so he kind of falls in line where he has to. But there is big talk about Ivanka Trump, and we've talked about this. Trump has those 2028 hats at the last minute. I think those hats may turn pink, and it would be the first female woman president, and it would be a Trump, and it would drive people crazy.
Yeah, that would secure the legacy, essentially.
Yeah, it would. The big question would be, would J.D. Vance take second string to her? Because J.D. Vance is really the intellectual base of MAGA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or the more explicitly open.
Well, he's the populist base of MAGA for sure. That's like, once Trump picked JD, that kind of locked me into kind of be a Trump supporter there. And it's not to say I won't turn against him with this Iran thing. If that thing would have kept going, I said it. I said, if this thing turns into a forever war, I'm done with that. But luckily, he was able to turn it around and make it a 12-day war so far.
And speaking of alligator, Alcatraz, and Alcatraz in general, son of El Chapo Guzman to plead guilty in U.S. Substance trafficking case. Court documents filed Tuesday indicate he intends to plead guilty after word of a possible plea deal was disclosed during an October hearing. And this has every single politician in Mexico, no matter what party they're from, but especially Morena, trembling, because they know that a lot of stuff could come out about the whole policy that was implemented, not just during AMLO and Sheinbaum's term, but...
Let's pause right there for a second. Yeah. We were living in Canada. The politics went crazy, so we live in Mexico City now. Although the politics are crazy down here, you get this sense of freedom through chaos. Everything's too chaotic to put extreme control like the Canadian government was. So we do have a unique perspective, being the fact that we live in Mexico.
Yeah.
So...
And also saw the consequences of.
And you're originally from Mexico.
I'm Mexican, yes.
That's
I'm
why
from
we
Mexico.
moved here as well.
But yes, so AMLO, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the previous president, had this policy of hugs, not bullets. And I think now a lot of the people that supported him and are within his party and other parties as well are regretting it, because not only this, but the U.S. has been investigating and going into, for example, the financial issues within and a lot of financial institutions within Mexico that have clear now ties to bad people and delinquent organizations, I'll say.
Yeah,
So now that he's going to talk.
The U.S. has been lining up all the dominoes to kind of put the Mexican administration in their place so they can bring the U.S. military in here on the back of the Mexican government. I don't know if the Mexican government's going to have that, but even if they don't, the U.S., especially during the Iran war, the narrative came up from the grassroots in the United States, and it was really the first time the narrative kind of flipped. They're like, why are we at war with Iran? The cartels are the ones we need to focus on. They're running fentanyl through the border and everything else. And this was coming through all the independent media, the mainstream media. I don't necessarily want to see the U.S. military come into Mexico because we live here. That being said, I did notice a major narrative switch during the Iran war, and that was the major domino they needed. They had already lined up 20 other things, and we've talked about it plenty on here. And a lot of them they've been trading for different cartel members to come get prosecuted, to flip on who's within the political parties within Mexico that the U.S. government should be kind of singling out.
And this is another domino. Like, this is a pretty big domino alongside with another informant, like another prisoner they've turned informant now within Mexicans' delinquent organizations. But with this one, I mean, it's basically just a step away from a big target as well. And I'm sure he knows. If he doesn't know, he'll know from his daddy, who'll help him gather information. But also, we were seeing a lot of Mexican governors and certain people of certain parties getting investigated by the U.S. and getting their visas removed. So we just see all of these dominoes and like quiet movements that are spoken of a lot here in Mexico, but not so much in the States.
Let's maybe explain that point a little bit better, because the party in power is Morena. So when they said they were revoking visas, they made sure to specifically say the party in power, Morena, has been infiltrated by the cartels and they're revoking passports. That domino is very important. If the U.S. doesn't get support from the Morena party to bring the military in, they can say, you've been captured by a terrorist organization, you're infiltrated by them, we're going to come in anyway. So they're trying to line up all the situations. Hopefully, I think they want the government to assist them, but if they don't, they want to be able to override the Mexican government, I think.
And finally, ironically and sadly enough, also, I believe it was today fully, but a new censorship bill just got passed by one of the chambers here in Mexico. The Telecommunications Act, I would guess it would be in English, just got passed. So now Morena the government will also have a lot more control over not just censorship, but what is talked about. And they'll be able to kind of spy basically on the population. So the fact that now there's more people talking that they would want to be, quiet, that also helps them.
And weren't you telling me the other day that the CCTVs had been compromised?
Yes, it came out during an investigation that members of a delinquent organization were able to hack into Mexico City's CCTV and follow U.S. not FDA, the other ones.
FBI.
No, the other one.
CIA?
DEA members around Mexico City who were doing covert operations. So that's also worrying. But yes, so I just wanted to bring it up because I didn't see many people in English talking about it. I
think the long-term target for the U.S. is Mexico. Mm-hmm. And they've been slowly lining these things up. So I hope it doesn't happen, but we'll have to see what does happen.
Yes, but in another story of somebody that's involved in interesting things to get themselves to go to the top from Entertainment Weekly, country singer Gavin Adcock slams Beyonce's Cowboy Carter for topping country charts. This S ain't country. I don't really believe her album should be labeled as country music. The singer argued in a video, it doesn't sound country, it doesn't feel country.
Yeah, we talked about this on my morning show. I actually kind of brought it to the night show because we wanted to use somebody for the thumbnail. I thought maybe Beyonce. But no, we went with the swimmer instead.
Yes.
That being said, I'm glad somebody is standing up to her because there is a lot of rumors that Jay-Z bought her that country music award for that album. And man, a lot of people in the independent media have already said it. She's not country. This is ridiculous. But the mainstream music industry has been scared to kind of say anything.
And it's another sort of push, even though she's at the top, I mean, in a fabricated way, but she's still at the top for this whole diversity, equity, inclusion thing. Because now we have, you know, an R&B woman of color topping the country charts. And that looks really good for the industry.
She was surrounded by some of the top executives, producers, things like that. She was completely manufactured from the beginning. It's not to say that she didn't have any talent, but anybody that had even a little bit of talent, that had Kanye West making your beats, Jay-Z making your beats, other people writing your songs, $1 million for your music videos, most people would have shined at that point. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they're trying to bring that same level of manufacturing from rap and pop music over to country, country people likes things that are a little bit more gritty, raw, and real, and authentic. We talked about All Over Anthony earlier, and that's really what country is.
And from the people and for the people. Beyonce is neither of those. Yeah. And she's completely manufactured. And also, I mean, there were a lot of things done to keep her and put her at the top. And I'll just mention The Plane and Aaliyah and leave that where it is. But it is funny that he, Gavin Adcock... Aaliyah. Sorry,
yeah.
Aaliyah.
Oh, okay.
There's two different ones, and I always get them, like, the pronunciation confused. Sorry. I'm ESL.
Okay, let's keep going.
That'll be my excuse. But it is funny because Gavin Adcock obviously struck the rage of the Beehive, or the fans of Beyonce, who came after him, and he just kind of stood his ground and said, no, it's not country. And just because you like her doesn't mean that you can't understand what actual country music is.
Well, and I had no idea what the Beehive was. This is it's the equivalent of the Swifties for Beyonce. They call them the Beehive. You informed me this morning. Yes. So thank you for that.
And here's the cover art for the album. Very clearly a very different version and view of what I think the industry wants people to see country as.
Yeah, and it just has the look of a Kanye West video. She looks like a witch on there, a shapeshifter, and there is a lot of rumors swirling around Beyonce. Yeah. I hope she's not able to shapeshift into a country singer. At least not successfully.
Well, she did. I mean, it's one of her biggest albums, I believe.
What?
And she was touring it last summer, I think.
Yeah, but I said this on my morning show. I used to work for record labels when I was first out of high school for a short period of time, and they literally will buy tens of millions of albums to say they have the number one singer on the number one chart. They'll buy that chart through actually physically buying the physical albums, and hopefully there's a snowball effect.
And I honestly don't understand why people like Beyonce at least so much. And I think a lot of that is manufactured as well.
Well, in my opinion, she's a witch and she's put a spell on the masses.
I think the witch is Jay-Z, because they started dating when she was like really like a minor, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's conjecture, but still, it's pretty much proven. But speaking of disgusting people and minors, Diddy jury to keep deliberating after deadlocking on the most serious charge. This is from BBC, but this came in earlier today.
Yeah, we thought we almost had a verdict, but why don't you go into it a little bit?
Yeah. So the jury trial of Sean Diddy Combs, also good friends with the Carters, will keep deliberating after reaching a partial verdict but deadlocking on the most serious charge faced by the hip-hop ex-mogul. At the federal court in New York, the 12 jurors announced they agreed on 4 of 5 counts but were unable to decide on the racketeering charge, which carries a possible life prison term. The atmosphere was tense as the rapper sat with head bowed, hands folded in his lap. His lawyers occasionally put their arms around him. Deliberations will resume on Wednesday morning.
Okay, so if this is interesting because I hadn't read this article. You grabbed this between your show and this show. So if he avoids his racketeering charges, this is absolutely huge for him now that I'm hearing this. Even with all these other charges, let's just say he gets 20 or 25 years. Without that racketeering charge, his money is somewhat safe. He's going to be able to move that money around and manipulate it. With the racketeering or RICO charge, be able to confiscate that money as part of the guilty verdict.
And it would also be life.
So yeah, this will have big implications on his family, his mother, his sons, and his ability to get money to himself in prison to continue to fight on appeal and stuff like that. So if the racketeering charge doesn't stick, he's going to be able to like really pay top tier lawyers to try to pick apart these other cases.
So at around 4:30 on Tuesday, the jury announced they had reached a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts after 2 days of deliberation. The panel said they couldn't come to an agreement on the racketeering charge because jurors on both sides have opinions that are unmovable. Judge Arun Subramanian heard arguments from both the prosecution and the rapper's defense attorneys on how to proceed before urging the jurors to keep trying to come to a unanimous decision. Their verdicts on the other 4 counts were not disclosed. The prosecution urged the judge to use an Allen charge, which is a set of instructions given to a hung jury to press its members to reach for a unanimous decision.
And I believe for the racketeering, you needed 2 charges to stick. So the fact that they can't agree on the racketeering charges, but they've come to a verdict on the other 4, that says to me maybe that they're not going to convict on more than 1. But that's just speculation, because if they were going to already convict on 2, that would, I think, include the racketeering. There's the racketeering, the RICO, I think. Anyway, I'll have to look into it. We'll talk a little bit more. Like I said, you just grabbed this article.
Yeah, because I just saw it happen.
Okay, now I'm actually getting interested in this case because it's getting very close to the end. I was kind of checked out of this thing.
But also not as many, number one, names, but not as many things came out, I think, as a lot of people were expecting. And of course, because that points to more involvement and close ties between Diddy and potential rumors that he might have been some sort of burnt informant.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to get a strong conviction on this. I think they'll get him on 1 or 2 things, but not very strongly. And it may be on appeal, he'll be able to overturn this. The way they folded out this case was they made him look like a bad guy, but they didn't press him with the proper charges and things like this. I mean, they had him on camera assaulting Cassie, yet they didn't charge him with assault. They wanted to go after this RICO thing so they can go after his money. So I don't know. Like there's certain charges that should have been in there that there was videotaped evidence of that they didn't charge with. And then other things, they're just trying to paint him as a general bad guy, and they think the jury's going to convict him.
He might be what's it called when you just put 1 up front so you protect the rest?
Yeah.
What's that called?
I can't remember.
I think he's being used, essentially. But speaking of being used and now having to come forth and back, so from Gays Against Groomers, I can't say the word, but go follow them because they're awesome.
And GAG just put out this article. This is big. So this was our breaking story. We kind of got buried, I guess, a little bit, but This was a huge story. When I seen it today, man, I was really happy on this, to be honest. So this is the first of a lot, and we've seen what happened with the new person that's in charge of the Olympics. Yep. They're also right on board with this kind of stuff. So this is very good.
So breaking, University of Pennsylvania apologizes for allowing Thomas to compete on women's team. UPenn also agreed to restore all the female records and places inappropriately taken by a male, apologizing in writing for every impacted female swimmer, adopt biology-based definitions of male and female, so common sense ones, and prohibit all males from female sports and female-only spaces. Women's rights under Title IX are finally returning to America.
Yeah, and the apology is huge. Actually coming out fully, giving an apology, saying we're sorry that we made you swim with her, that we took her side, everything else. This is big, and we've seen this with the jibby jab era. We showed some videos of doctors coming out and apologizing and things like that, saying they weren't properly informed, they weren't even properly trained in medical school. I am willing to forgive people, even though, man, this stuff was absolutely infuriating at the time, but they're headed in the right direction, and we want other people to head in the right direction. So when they do come out and they're sincere and they give full apologies and show how they're changing the standards, we should embrace it and accept their apology. We do have somebody in the comments there.
Yes. Should I give my opinion about this or read the comment?
Read the comments real quick.
Okay. Hold on. Rafa, hello. Scapegoat, yes, thank you. And we missed you.
Oh, yeah, scapegoat.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
He knows English better than I do.
Yes. And Rafa says, hello, by the way. Hello. hopefully everything's okay. And Luis Mares says, don't forget about the Italian female boxer. They should apologize also. And to every single other one also impacted by the Chinese boxer.
No, they're starting to straighten out that boxer, but she's been giving out some furious tweets today. I didn't grab the story in time. We will probably have it most likely tomorrow, but there was a major article out today. So the International Boxing Association, the Olympics, as well as the man-woman boxer are kind of going at it right now. So that story is really coming to the surface.
But I was also going to say, should we accept the apology when it's being forced by President Donald Trump, essentially coming to a deal with UPenn for it? I mean, UPenn, what they did and what a lot of the other universities that were forcing females to compete with males was telling them, oh, you feel uncomfortable in the changing rooms? Well, then you have to go to a psychologist and you have to understand why you feel uncomfortable seeing male genitalia right in front of you as you change right before a big competition, and then see that same person or other people similar take away all the hard work you've done and all the opportunities that you could get from winning. So I don't know. I'm not as enticed to forgive as easily, especially when UPenn is being forced to do it.
Okay, well, I just have the same, I have the opinion that you do accept the apology. I have the same view with Disney. We want to push Disney in the right direction. It's a classic piece of Americana, although I hate the direction they've gone over the past 10 years, and they're still going in that direction, and I'll still continue to call them out when they do make decent movies that are a lot less politically based. You need to praise them to kind of push them in that direction so they make the right investments in the future, and we can steer them back in the right direction and hopefully get a classic piece of Americana back into the right hands and not these crazy progressives that are trying to mess around with children, let's say.
But with Lia Thomas, I think, this person also has a very interesting history.
Why did you say Lia Thomas?
Because I can't say the actual name of the person.
Why not?
Because YouTube gets mad, but that's the name. I can say Lia, I just can't say his dead name.
Well, I think you can now because Trump changed the laws in the U.S., and that's a U.S.-based company.
Well, we'll see. But this person, this man...
No, you can because the other creators all over YouTube today were, and they're doing the same thing with Mia Khalifa or whatever her name is.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Liam Thomas has very weird and interesting backstory to why he does these kinds of things and why he was interested in the whole trans thing in the first place. And there's a sector of the trans community, I know I can't say on YouTube, but I'll say they're auto, gyna, philiacs, who just do it because it turns them on, essentially. And that was discovered to be one of the things, one of the motives for why this man was going to compete against women. You also had a video of him. Did you want to watch that or no?
Yeah, let's play that. Actually.
And then I have an article kind of explaining the situation
I just kind of put the video in so you know who this person is. And this is a really old video when she was kind of on the he was on the top of the totem pole. And it's just insane the logic that they try to use to play the victim here.
And the low effort on even trying to appear to be what they call a woman.
They're like, oh, we respect Lia as a woman, as a trans woman, whatever. We respect her identity. We just don't think it's fair. You can't really have that sort of half support where you're like, oh, I respect her as a woman here, but not here. They're using the guise of feminism to sort of push transphobic beliefs. And I think a lot of people in that camp sort of carry an implicit bias against trans people, but don't want to, I guess, fully manifest or speak that out. And so they try to just play it off as this sort of half support.
They think about how twisted feminism, quote unquote, feminism has become. Their arguments, in order to exclude anybody in the trans category, you have to reduce women to reproductive capacity, which is, in my opinion, extremely anti-feminist. I don't want to put those women down either, and I know you don't want to either, because I see pain. I see pain, and the pain is coming from somewhere. It's not you, though. It's the patriarchy. And how can we get people to see that?
They're like, oh, we respect Lia.
Was that it?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that was a good clip. And that Asian guy really made that clip.
Yes, that's how they actually think.
That's how they think in these universities, and it's crazy. And it was great to see the LGBTQ go up against feminism and watch them both kind of collapse.
Yes, and I mean, it's also ridiculous that they're trying to say that feminism, which is supposed to, and I completely disagree with feminism. I think feminism brought all this mess up upon themselves by saying that, oh, women are just the same as men. No, we're not. And the fact that you don't want to accept that was what made men go into your spaces in the first place, and now you're yelling about it. But the fact that they were saying that, feminism cannot be reduced to a woman's biology, come on, that's how they think, and that's the kind of rhetoric and idiocy that was happening during at least a few years ago. But let's quickly read what actually happened, because I don't think UPenn is doing it so willingly. They just don't want to have their funding cut. But yes, the University of Pennsylvania came to an agreement with the Trump administration Tuesday that will strip transgender swimmer Lia Thomas of his titles and recognitions and ban trans athletes from women's sports after the administration alleged the school violated Title IX provisions. And there we see Riley Gaines, who essentially became an activist from all of this, from having to give her space and her medal as a woman, getting a medal to this man who was pretending, and then went to fight and actually got essentially yelled out of a lot of universities and attacked by a lot of these activists that supported Thomas. And now she's going to have a baby who's a girl. But yes, the university agreed to apologize for violations to Title IX, a civil rights law barring sex-based discrimination in federally funded education programs. UPenn will restore titles, records, or recognitions misappropriated by male athletes allowed to compete in female categories, according to the agreement, which was announced by the Department of Education on Tuesday. The agreement also says the university must issue a public statement in a prominent location on its main website, specifying it will not allow males to compete in female athletic programs or occupy Penn Athletics female intimate facilities. Riley Gaines, an outspoken critic of, did I call her Riley Gaines?
Yeah.
Okay. Of trans athletes who tied with Thomas for 5th place in a freestyle event at the 2022 NCAA Women's Swimming and Diving Championships, was quoted in the Education Department's press release, saying she hopes the agreement will demonstrate to educational institutions that they will no longer be allowed to trample upon women's civil rights.
Yeah, so this is fantastic, and hopefully this is starting to take roots on more of a global level, especially because the Olympics are coming to LA, and Trump is vowing to reject anybody's visa that is a transgendered athlete that wants to compete in the LA Olympics. So
that's good, because Paris, France, with their whole debauchery and their how they did the Olympics, they were allowing anybody that had any sort of documentation to say female, where you can change it anywhere. Like in Canada, you can change.
The way they disrespected the Last Supper in their opening ceremony was crazy.
Yes. But the fact that the Olympics Committee was allowing anybody with essentially just female, which, I mean, I can change it even in Mexico. I think I can go change it tomorrow if I wanted to male. They were allowing that as a proof that someone is female or male, which is insane. Rafa says, I missed you too. I was on a busy family trip. Oh, hopefully you had a great time and came back safely. We'll try to catch up with your clips. Thank you, because...
Oh, we did a guest appearance on Culture, a channel called Culture Casino, and he has, in his video section, one about the Fantastic Four. So it was a big guest appearance for us, actually.
Yes, and thank you to Culture Casino as well. And Rafa also says, that Thomas dude is really creepy. I'll surely run if I saw him in a dressing room, especially because they were saying, and a lot of even his teammates were saying, that he would just parade around with this thing hanging out and just kind of try to talk to people, because, again, it turns him on. There's certain people, certain men that do this because seeing themselves as a woman is what excites them. I'll just put it that way.
Okay, let's go into the next article here.
Sorry, I can. This is one of my main rails. What's it called?
Hobbies?
Third rail, I guess. This is one of the topics that really interests me and what really kind of got me to awaken from the...
I heard some rumors.
Progressive
idiocy.
idiocy.
Garner. Yeah, I was hearing those. Can you read that comment really quick?
Yes, I heard some rumors that Brittany Griner, WNBA player, was in male prison when was detained in Russia. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Have you heard her speak?
There's been a lot of rumors about her, and there's been a lot of footage coming out with her at the pool with no shirt on. She looks like a complete man. I mean, she has no breast tissue whatsoever. There was rumors coming out of Russia. You were right about that again. There was also rumors that the WNBA was going to start implementing genetic tests, but I don't know if that came to fruition yet. That's the one athlete I'm the most interested about, and that's Brittany Griner. It's because she's competed so long under the guise of actually being a female, not being a transgendered female, or didn't even try to play it off. I think she's a male, in my opinion. I have no real evidence of that, but there is a ton of rumors swirling around her.
Might also have PCOS, so there's some other condition that increases your testosterone levels. But I mean, even the voice is very telling.
I would like to see maybe Trump speak up about that and start asking for genetic tests for these different leagues and stuff like that. The NBA, the NHL, and the major male leagues are actually not male leagues. They're dual sex leagues, so everybody can compete. The problem is women just aren't good enough to compete at that level. So if you are transgender and you want to compete, you should be forced to compete with the top talent.
Or just make a transgender league and have them all, the weirdos, play against each other. Rafa says, great win for Riley Gaines. Exactly. But I think the biggest win right now for her is that she's having a baby. She's having a baby girl.
Maybe she'll name it Leah.
Please don't. From Lips of TikTok. Also, if you don't follow her, please go follow her. It's not this person. That's the account. Democrat activists are organizing a nationwide protest that consists of purposefully not going to work for days to show employers how essential they are.
Oh, I don't even know if these progressivists have jobs. That being said, they've tried to do protests like this in the past, and they've completely failed. This one's even worse because they're not going to announce a date until days before, so I don't know how they're going to get people rallied up. This is a moronic idea, and it's only going to hurt themselves.
It's probably all the HR departments that essentially are not essential, as is. They're just in the way.
What if millions of us stopped working, stopped spending, and stopped producing all at the same time? There's a movement brewing. It's called the People's Sick Day, and what it is a 3-day economic blackout. That means no work, no shopping, no production, just pause. 3 days where we remind the system that without us, nothing moves. But here's the twist. We're not giving out the dates until 48 hours before, because we don't want to give the corporations time to plan and stop us from having this happen. Because let's be honest, if they knew what we were planning, they'd shut it down before it even started.
Nobody cares.
This isn't a protest. This is a strategic disruption to the machine that feeds off of our hard work and labor. If you want to be a part of it, go to thepeoplesickday.com, join the Discord, and join the movement. This is how we stand up against what is happening in our country. We need to shut it down.
Yeah, great in theory. It's not going to work in practice because it's a progressive movement. Something similar to this did happen in Canada, and it was very successful because it was done by blue-collar conservatives that actually know how to follow through on action, and that was the truckers' protest. So in theory, protests like this can work. We've seen them work very well in Canada and other countries, but it has to be a blue-collar movement because when it's the Human Resource Department, nobody cares. The illegal immigrants in the United States would have a much better chance of having a strike day like this because they actually do jobs that are important.
Yeah, Un Día Sin Mexicanos, a day without Mexicans, but it's a movie. But with her, what they're going to end up proving is how easily AI can take over their stupid jobs for 3 days and then not get hired back because you left and we don't actually need you to come yell at people about how to dress or how to use proper pronouns on people. Because that's essentially the kinds of jobs these insane people get if they even have a job.
And the next story is about USAID, and I didn't get the complimentary article with this, so I'll just talk about it before we talk about this. Marco Rubio announced today it's the official end of USAID, and they completely took the placard off of the building. So now we'll go into this, and they're trying to frame this as this is a bad thing. I think it would be a great thing to go after the IRS and other intelligence agencies.
Chuck Schumer, another non-essential worker. Blech.
Also know this is just the beginning. If Doge attacks USAID today, then you can be sure they'll move on to another target tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the Postal Service or the IRS or even the Social Security Administration. They could be next. Or maybe our national security agencies. Also know this is
Isn't that the actual plan, to figure out what's like wrong and corrupt in those same places he's mentioning and, improve them and stop the insane spending that goes nowhere?
And this is part of the reason why I don't like this big, beautiful bill that's going down, but I'm willing to look past it because he is starting to chop these agencies down to size, whether it's USAID, and he has a long list he has to go through. So he can't constantly be distracted by Congress, and he needs the economy to kind of work smoothly and hold together while he's doing these trade negotiations, tariff negotiations. But yeah, I think he's going to go after the IRS and a lot of these other departments one at a time. He can't do them all at once. Otherwise, there's going to be just too much chaos. But he is singling in on USAID. That was one of the more important ones.
And again, like a lot of people were trying to say that the intelligence agencies, for example, or the IRS should be looked into and targeted because of how they've been managed or mismanaged for so long. So Chuck Schumer, just another really old member of the system that wants to keep holding and grasping at straws to maintain the places and status they've had for so long. Also, I was going to ask, I don't understand this whole number one, number two thing on the chat. Is it a new thing? Because I've never seen that
What's
before.
that?
It gives them like little crowns and says top fans, which thank you. But
This is the thing you seen earlier, your top fans.
yes, but I don't understand it.
It's whoever's making the most
But then I
comments,
can click
maybe.
on it. But why is it giving them points? You all have 100 points, in my opinion.
Well, I don't even see these crowns. What are you talking? Oh, it's only on your computer.
Oh, only
You're
on
in control, so I like you all.
I'm in
She's the one
control.
that's hating on you guys.
How am I hating on them? I'm not hating on you. I'm saying they shouldn't be segmenting people by, yes. Rafa is our a very good fan, so thank you so much. And always commenting. But also Luis Maris, thank you. If anybody knows when or why they did that, let me know.
Okay, let's go into the next story. And Canada in one photo. I can't remember this. Did you put this on or did I?
And Rafa says, I also thought of that movie. Yes, Un Día Sin Mexicanos. It's a kind of funny movie. It's in Spanish. The
Well,
photo?
they made an American version as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, about Mexicans?
Yeah, about Mexicans. A day without a Mexican, it was called, I think.
Was it in English or Spanish?
English. It wasn't that big, though. It was an independent film.
So I think this one was also independent, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want to see the hell we escaped?
What's Canada in one photo?
It's the hell we've escaped.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I did put this in. So this is the former finance minister of Canada. She now has a different cabinet position with the new government. And this just says it perfectly.
Chrystia Freeland.
Rainbow liberal sign with, I don't know what that is.
I have way too many. I'm not going to say
God.
the comments I have, but
That's probably your boyfriend, in my opinion.
ew. And Canada is also, I mean, even in Canada, which is like whole of wokeness and progressiveness, they're even struggling there because, as we did point out, and I mean, obviously we see why. But for example, with Toronto Pride, it faced a $900,000 shortfall after the major sponsors pulled out. And even though they keep trying to push it, they keep trying to incentivize it. It's because of things like this and like the stripper pole we showed yesterday and incentivizing children to come see the most weird, crazy nudity.
Yeah, they
and
need to
people.
get rid of the crazy. Stop going after the children. Stop prancing around naked.
Yeah.
And then they can bring their little movement back. But they don't want to ostracize anybody. When somebody looks like that, yeah, you can't legally ask them to leave. But if everybody just ignores them and makes them feel unwelcome, they'll kind of leave on their own. And that's how like conservative movements or other movements that are filled with a bunch of normies deal with people like that.
And that's what I keep saying and what I keep mentioning, that it's up to the community themselves to kind of police their own in a way. And if they also don't agree with this, because I have seen a lot of videos and I wanted to talk about that, probably I'll bring them tomorrow, of gay and lesbians saying, I don't go to Pride because it's become this circus freak show that I don't agree with. And I wish we were just kind of left to be like the rights that we were demanding and asking for, we got, and we now can live like a normal, peaceful life in the US. But because these crazies keep doing crazy things, we're seen as part of them, but they're not. But it's up to them to clean their community.
Yeah, the gay movement or the LGBTQ movement, as well as the feminist movement, had rolled into the train station and they had equal rights and everything was kind of set up. And then they said, because they had these multi-billion-dollar NGOs all over the world, divided into like 100 and 1,000 different NGOs, just billions of dollars pouring into this. They said, no, we don't want to be equal. We want to be better than. Mm-hmm. And they started using all that funding rather than stopping the movement. Yeah. They said, well, no, we're going to keep going. And now they're kind of feeling a lot of pushback, and they're kind of ruining their own communities.
And that's how craziness like took hold, because they couldn't find any other people that needed help in a way. And these people clearly need help, but not from
And we got a couple more comments there.
So Luis Maris says, I think it's because subscribers can comment, and the number is who comments first, then second, and so on. Okay. Thank you. Jessica Ramirez says, I will have nightmares. Sorry, so will we. That's what we got to see every day when we lived in Canada.
I mean, in Hollywood, they couldn't have made a better villain. That was like, That reminded me of Human Centipede.
But I mean, those kinds of people are common. Like, even there was one person
we
that...
see them all over Vancouver.
Yeah, we had a coffee shop under a building at one point, and there was this person that I think you knew from before, but like that was now trans, but not making any efforts to pretend to be. And then I think one time he spit in my sandwich when he realized who I was. I actually think that's true, because when I was walking around with Billboard Chris and kind of helping him out and filming him, quite a few people started recognizing me for also the videos I was making, kind of talking about this same kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure that person spit in my sandwich one day. I didn't eat it. Rafa says, I also hadn't seen that before with the common things. And Rafa also says, Luis Mares, it's nightmare fuel. Yes, of course.
Okay, let's go into July 1st.
Also, the hell we left. The hellhole we left. So from Concerned Canadian.
Yeah, and this is really putting Canada first here. You'll know what I'm talking about once we play this video, but this is ridiculous.
Yes, he says July 1st. So July 1st is Canada's kind of Independence Day. It's kind of the equivalent of July 4th. There used to be a lot of parades with a lot of Canadian flags.
So yeah, this is supposed to be a day of Canadian flags, Canadian pride. People come out, they celebrate together. There's street festivals, things like this. Yeah. This is what it's now turned into. This is in Ottawa, the capital and the parliament of where all the legislation and stuff happens.
Yeah, that's a parliament building.
السلام على فلسطين من نهرها لبحرها السلام على كل التراب السلام على غزة على أطفالها ونسائها ورجالها وشيوخها.
I'm just pausing it for the music, but that's what a conquered country looks like.
Yeah, that's a huge Palestinian flag. Now, I don't mind if people want to support Palestine, support Israel, whatever you want to do.
Peacefully
but on a holiday like is supposed to be Canadian pride, you don't bring a huge... That should be a Canadian flag, not a Palestinian flag.
Mm-hmm. Like essentially, for any Mexicans out there, it's like El Día de la Independencia. Like it's essentially the same thing. And here we still see a lot of like just normal celebrations, some pride at least in the country, not in the government. But in Canada, they keep removing and trying to remove the July 1st celebrations. And they've kind of succeeded. In Vancouver, they started doing First Nations reconciliation stuff on July 1st. And then all over Canada, they just stopped the parades and stopped essentially any Canadian flag from
basically
appearing.
The government stopped funding a lot of the celebrations around the country, and then independent organizations would come in and make it like Palestinian Day or First Nations Day. So the government can say, oh, well, we just didn't have the money to fund it. We allowed these other organizations to do what we want. We're all one big happy country. Everybody's welcome. And then that's how you lose real identity of what a Canadian is. And recently when the Canadian Prime Minister was asked, what does it mean to be Canadian? And he said, we're not American. That's his answer. Like, you don't actually have an identity other than we're not American. Yeah, we understand you're not American, but you're going to be soon if you lose your actual identity.
And that's the thing, I forget his name, but there's a Canadian content creator that talks a lot about society, culture. He's like pretty lefty, but he was talking about that. Sadly, the Canadian identity has essentially turned into, we have free healthcare and we're not America. When before it used to be an encompass so much more. And even
we're hockey, we're maple syrup, we're,
hard
we
work,
drink beers, we're
living in the
cold north. Yeah.
But since essentially a lot of and even immigration used to be kind of like a point of pride.
Yeah.
But now the identity is lost, so it doesn't even mean anything to be proud of immigration because it's all been completely changed and turned on its head.
Yeah, when I first moved to Canada, immigration, actually Canada was the model of proper legal immigration. They had very little illegal immigration. They had a good amount of legal immigration from a wide, diverse sector of people from around the world. They had great integration to get these people into Canada, learning English, things like this, getting them recertified if there were doctors in other countries. And now it's just a ridiculous shit show where they're trying to manipulate their GDP and their financial numbers. They're boosting up this mirage of Canadian economy, which doesn't really exist. It's ready to fall, and it's based upon these migrants.
And they also need all this immigration because Canada, if they didn't do that, would be almost on par with South Korea with population collapse. So they're just doing it to manipulate numbers.
But I'm really for immigration in certain ways. And Canada used to have it done right. And I hope really America sets up their system now how Canada used to have their system set up. It was a very good system. Other countries from all around the world used to come in. I used to talk to people that would come into the bar that were politicians or economists, and they would say, yeah, we're here to study the Canadian immigration system because it's the best in the world. And it just completely fell apart, and it was completely intentional.
And it was also based upon like scores and points, and they've completely changed that and changed how many points or what kind of scores you need, how much of the English or French language, the official languages, you need to know. And even like once you are in Canada, how much you're actually integrated or even need to integrate.
Yeah, it's basically a bunch of conclaves of here's some Indian people over here that don't leave their community, here are the Chinese over here. Nobody's integrated into one larger Canadian community, and that's why you're having a lot of racial tensions and stuff rise.
I mean, in Vancouver, there's Richmond, which almost all the signs are now in Mandarin.
Okay, let's go into
street signs.
Let's go into the last story here.
And Luis Mattis says, yeah, Greta Thunberg just tried to donate like 12 pounds of food to Gaza, and when she was detained, she said they kidnapped her. Speaking of Greta Thunberg, actually, apparently from Bill Gates is a psycho. Arsonist was caught on camera. Don't ever let legacy media convince you it's because of climate change. So many examples of this nature.
Yeah, and in Canada, this was from Canada, but in Canada, the majority of the fires are actually man-made fires statistically. So they try to say it's climate change, but when you look into the statistics, it's a bunch of arsonists starting these fires and things like this. Also, one of the earlier segments we did on our Spanish channel when it used to be in English was the Canadian government dumping massive buckets of chemicals into rivers in order to kill all the fish because there was an invasive species of fish. So their solution was, we're going to kill all the fish in the river. And they got caught because there was a fisherman in this extremely remote river going up camera while he was fishing, and he had his cell phone with him, and he started filming it. These guys in biosuits were dumping chemicals into the river, and they had a park ranger there protecting them so nobody would mess with them. And he said, what are you doing? And then they looked like they got caught and they were doing something wrong. It later came out in the news because of that video. They were trying to kill all the fish in the river. And who knows how many rivers across Canada that was happening.
And I mean, in Canada and other places before, and the places that have massive forest fires now, they used to do controlled burns. This is not one of them because usually, once again, it's controlled. But they stopped doing that because of the environment and because controlled burns wouldn't be a good thing. But then we see either man-made by accident or on purpose fires started because all the kindling and all the dry leaves and branches and trees and stuff are just left there for years and years and years. And then dry season comes and oh, surprise, there's fires that start just from breathing too close to it.
Well, yeah, one of the big talking points is climate change is creating forest fires in Canada. You'll constantly hear the Canadian government say this, and they'll never bring up the actual statistics of how many of those are man-made, and it's the large majority of them.
I think we've shown even the statistics during another show a while ago. But yes, the insanity continues.
And we do have one more story I didn't see.
We do?
Oh, no. Was that it? The climate change? Okay, yeah. Okay, we're not going to go over to RUMBLE tonight because we were running late, and the reason we went at 8:30, we had to wait for a video to render so we could stream through the computer. If you try to render a video and stream at the same time, it will conflict.
Render is like export, which was taking a long time, which is also why there was no edited clip today on the Spanish channel. I'll try to push it out before the day ends because it's about the end of Pride, and I wanted it to come out on July 1st because it's the end of Pride. But yes, so if you speak Spanish, there's that video coming out soon on the Spanish channel. And
if you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So, yeah.
And also thank you so much to Rafa, Luis Mares, and Jessica Ramirez. Thank you for being here and commenting. It's always a lot more interesting and fun when we can see and know what you all think. So they're turning off the lights now for me. So have a good night. Rafa says, nice seeing you again. Great live. Great hearing from you again as well. And Walker in my Spanish show, because we weren't sure where you two were. But Jessica Ramirez also, thank you so much. And Luis Mares, and good night. Okay, hold on. How do I turn this off? There we go. I forgot.